My very first segment ever talking about football, and we are going to be talking about the Lions game against Houston. So this game was very, very ugly. In fact, you could say that these quarterbacks were having a mid-off in this game. It was really there were a lot of interceptions, primarily from Jared Goff, or as I like to call him, Jared Goof when he plays like this. Yeah, we had a Jared Goof sighting this night. I mean, he threw 5 interceptions in this singular game. He almost was about to lead the league in interceptions just off of this one game that he played. It was that bad. And, I mean, throughout the entirety of the first half, it was all the Houston Texans, primarily because Jared Goof was playing football and not Jared Goff. It was really bad. I mean, most of the running backs for the Lions, especially in the first half, they did not really play all that well. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, he only had 71 yards and averaged 3.7 on each attempt. However, they started to pick it up a little bit later in the second half when Houston started to become a little bit generous with their interceptions as well. CJ Stroud did not have a very good game efficiently, like in terms of efficiency wise for like QBR either. He had only a 64 QBR, not all that good. And he also threw 2 interceptions along with that as well. Like there was a lot of interceptions in this game. And in the beginning of the game, the Texans they were playing solid, but again, it wasn't like they were necessarily capitalizing on a lot of these interceptions, right? So they capitalized on the first one, however, scored a touchdown on their first drive off of a Jared Goof interception. I'm going to say Jared Goof until he starts playing like Jared Goff, just so that way you guys know. But then the game was still rather close in the second quarter because the Lions, they ended up getting down 7-10. But again, it's a field goal away from tying the game. Then the Houston Texans, they ended up making a field goal, but then Jared Goof came back and threw an interception right back. But instead of capitalizing on it with a touchdown, which would have most likely ended the game or maybe propelled them a little bit forward, they settled for a field goal. Then both of the teams exchanged punts, and then afterwards Houston ended up with a touchdown, and then Jared Goof came back just before the first half ended and threw another interception. Then in the third quarter, it was just an interception battle between the two. First, Houston threw an interception, then Jared Goof came back and threw another interception, but instead of capitalizing on it, Houston ended up punting, and then Detroit ended up scoring the touchdown right after. Then CJ Stroud was generous enough to give them the ball right back off of an interception, but then Jared Goof came back and threw another interception. And then they exchanged punts, and then eventually down the line there was a missed field goal coming in from Houston, which then allowed the Detroit Lions towards the end of the game to seal the win off of a 52-yard field goal, I believe it was, and thus end the game. So this game was really, really ugly. Like, it was very ugly. Not as ugly as the Giants and the Panthers game, in my opinion, but still a pretty ugly game. But the Lions, with this game, despite the fact that it was ugly, they've shown that they can compete. They've definitely shown that they can compete. It doesn't matter how bad necessarily their quarterback is, because I think the Texans are a pretty solid team. And the fact that they were able to beat them while with Goff throwing 5 interceptions, it really says a lot. Jared Goof, or Jared Goff, whichever you want to call him, he is now the first quarterback since Matt Ryan, I believe, to win a game and while throwing 5 interceptions. I think Matt Ryan did that in maybe like 2012, I want to say, somewhere around that time. And again, when you win a game like this, obviously, you can clean this up. The game could have been way cleaner on both sides. I mean, you read the play, you saw the play-by-play, you heard the play-by-play and what I had to say about that. It was not very good, and it was very, very inefficient. The teams were very turnover prone, but this is stuff that they can easily work towards. And normally the Lions, they've been really good at protecting the ball. And they're a team that gets a lot of yak, and that's a thing that I love to say. They get a lot of yak yards after catch. And they're a very solid team. In fact, since this is the first time I'm doing this, I'm going to say right here and now, I think the Super Bowl is going to be Ravens and Lions. That's going to be the two teams that are going to make the Super Bowl. And if anything were to mess up, then I can see the Chiefs completely messing up the Ravens' chances just based off of how they've been playing, as well as in the NFC side, I can see the Eagles potentially winning and beating the Lions as well. Those are the two other scenarios where I don't see the Lions or the Ravens making the Super Bowl. One of those two can happen because, again, the way that the Eagles have been playing so far in the beginning they were very, very rusty. Jalen Hurts was not really playing all that well, but recently they've been cleaning it up, and this is sort of what we expect from good teams. They get turnover prone. It's fine. Then they clean it up as the weeks go on because it's a very, very long NFL season and there's a lot of prep time that goes into these games. And I don't think that we're going to see a Jared Goff game like this ever again. 5 interceptions is really bad. But for the most part, the Lions, they've been playing very solid. This is a win against a pretty competent team in the Texans. They recently did beat the Packers last week as well, not to mention beating the Vikings along with that as well. Again, these are all pretty competent teams. Now, I believe the only game that they lost was against the Buccaneers at home, and the Bucs were a completely healthy roster at that point. But ever since then, they've really seemed to clean it up, especially against the Seahawks, where they were just like a machine out there. They were getting yak after yak after yak. Now, for the Texans and the Texans side, they really benefit from the fact that they're in my opinion, one of the weaker divisions in the AFC. Like, the AFC South, it's not necessarily a strong division. It's not like the division is up for grabs like the AFC North or something like that. And the Colts, I don't see them making the playoffs. I also don't see the Titans making the playoffs at all. And at this rate, the Jaguars, I did not expect the Jaguars to be this bad. I expected them to put up a little bit of a fight for the AFC South, but that has not been the case whatsoever. So the Texans, they're most likely going to make the playoffs anyway. So it's not like this team was like a mediocre or a bad team going into this game. However, I will say that the Texans, they did have injuries, and Stephon Diggs was out, just to name one of them. There have been several other key players on the team that have also been ruled out for this game. So you could make the argument that if they had a healthy roster, then this game would have gone a little bit different. But then again, they were a missed field goal away from winning the game. Not to mention the fact that they were completely scoreless in the second half, which is not ideal, especially when you're going up against a playoff team like the Lions. And there's been some issues with the Lions and their secondary, and their defense is mediocre. You can make that argument. I think it's mediocre, but the second half, it's sort of proven that they can lock up. They can definitely lock in and do what it needs to take to win this game. So again, this was just a very, very, very turnover prone game, and it was a very ugly game. But at the end of the day, the better team ended up making it out on top. And that's all she wrote. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the second segment where I talk about the New York Giants, the New Jersey Giants. They're called New York, but they play in New Jersey. So this is going to be the first time I ever get to talk about the Giants, and I am not going to enjoy it because we are bad. So I'll be right back after this short segment. I'll be right back after this short break. Excuse me. Be sure to stay tuned for that segment if you guys are interested. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please
Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the